hello. Yep.
Good, right?
Hello. Yep, good. Still working? Hello. Hello, yep.
And we never did talk about this in the budget.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, put it all back there.
There we
We're good to go.
Okay. Be bothered with it. Right. No, for
Thank
the,
you.
for the school. Our contact person seems to have fallen to the wayside and, we just have other things.
She said we didn't even talk about mites. Maybe we were gonna talk about that.
I have no idea.
Oh, that's right. Yep, you're right.
So maybe I should do some more reading. Do you want to do that? Okay,
Oh,
okay.
Okay,
Yeah, because we haven't talked about it.
6:30.
Just a second.
Okay.
Joe thinks that the Board of Selectmen might be going forward with the gas line. So he's going to read the minutes and stuff and then. Martha?
It was. Okay. Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:30 on Monday, January 25th, 2021 at the LCS Media Center. Brian, are we all set with the live stream? Okay. I would ask that everybody speaks directly into one of the microphones since the live stream is being fed through those microphones so that the people at home can hear. All right, everybody seems to be here. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, do we have any public comment this evening? Okay, I just asked you to state your name so that the people at home, is that mic on, Brian?
We'll pick up on there. So
Oh,
just
okay.
Put this right here.
I'm Deborah Goslin. I'm here to talk about the very rough transition to the newly instituted Mobymax curriculum and the lack of support provided by the Lisbon Central School Administration. On Sunday, January 3rd, my 7th grader emailed her math teacher asking if she could continue the support she had been providing on Wednesdays since early October when she changed to full distant learning. She was requesting this help to finish the math packet previously assigned before Christmas break. She stated that although Mobymax was starting the next day, it would be a full 2 weeks before the in-person students would transition to 5 days. There should have been no reason why the support session could not have continued with the last 2 remote Wednesdays. On Monday, her teacher did not respond using this help in any teacher contact and stated the packet was due on December 20th. This was the first we had heard of any due dates for the distant learning paperwork. In fact, that was the day my child received the packet. My child responded that she would be forced to YouTube her math questions. This is absolutely unacceptable and embarrassing. The following day, day 1 of Mobymax, I attached a thank you letter to the incomplete math packet and returned it with my crying child to the school and heard nothing since. Now, week 1 of Mobymax, I would like to state that my children are in 7th and 4th grade. Day 1, both children had placement tests and a few other assignments. I assumed the placement tests would be placing them into the appropriate self-paced learning lessons. With being self-paced, that would not be in line with in-person learning. Day 2, my children had opposite level vocabulary assignments. My 7th grader had the exact same social studies assignments as my 4th grader did on day 1. Emails were exchanged between myself and Mrs. Jenkins. Day 3, again, my children had opposite level vocabulary assignments and my 7th grader had a social studies assignment my 4th grader had on days 1 and 2. Emails were exchanged with Mrs. Jenkins and she inappropriately suggested that I make an in-person appointment to discuss this. Why would I enter an unsafe full school building when my children are home for this exact reason? Mrs. Jenkins then suggested the children be switched to grade level learning instead of self-paced. Day 4, both children had the exact same vocabulary, social studies, and science assignments, all well below grade level. Emails were exchanged again. Mrs. Jenkins questioned whether they were signed in under each other's names. How insulting. They requested I bring Nora to the school with her Chromebook to see if she was signed in correctly. I refused, considering this is distant learning, and assured her that yes, in fact, she was signed in as herself. Day 5, both children again had first grade level vocabulary. Emails were exchanged. The grade levels were reset with no change. Mrs. Jenkins was going to call the Mobymax company. Week 2, grade level learning was finally straightened out by Tuesday, and there were no technical issues. Today's update is a letter received by Mrs. Jenkins stating that she just now is getting to the process of creating a parent video to help navigate Mobymax. We are into week 3. I also received an undecipherable progress report for each child. So as described, my children, and I'm sure many others, have wasted a full week of their education. This program is weak, full of busy work, and very little content. There are no spelling modules. There are no longer length reading assignments or writing assignments for either grade. This is ultra concerning for my 7th grader, seeing strong book reports and written papers are an integral part of her education needed to succeed in high school and beyond. After a full 2 weeks of Mobymax learning, I have compared content with 4 parents and students in the 7th grade, 3 parents and students in the 4th grade. Not one topic or subject matter is even remotely in line with what the children are learning in the classroom. This brings me to my last topic of integration back into the classroom at a further date. How are the distant learning students with either self-paced or grade level assignments on this program going to transition back into a classroom? Mr. Apperson and Ms. Jenkins stated at the last Board of Ed meeting that parents would need to provide 3 days before the child returned. During these 3 days, computer-generated reports would be printed and a meeting would be held with the teachers. With the lessons and content comparisons I've made over these past 2 weeks, it will be 100% impossible for these children to seamlessly reintegrate with their peers, no matter their academic level. As stated last month by Mr. Apperson, Mobymax is a tool, a supplement in the learning process. It is not a curriculum. This is not working, and to no surprise for anyone who has voiced their major concerns before its implementation. I greatly urge you as board members to ask a lot more questions in addition to the very few asked last month. The first of these questions is why on earth is Lisbon Central School not using live video learning that every other school system is using for their distant learning? There would be no need for this program if these students would be part of their live classes from the safety of their homes. School systems have the responsibility.
I have 2 letters to read, both from, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Kursick. From Mr. Kursick, who is a parent. Dear Lisbon School Board members, I am a parent whose child attends Lisbon Central School. I am writing regarding the full remote learning plan that began on January 4th of this year. On 12/9/2020, I received an email detailing this plan that read, all students will be required to utilize the Mobymax platform and complete the following each day. Mobymax English Language Arts, 60 minutes. Mobymax Math, 60 minutes. Mobymax Science or Mystery Science, 35 minutes. Mobymax Social Studies, 35 minutes. Spanish Duolingo, 7th, 8th grade only, 35 minutes. Silent reading, daily reading log, 25 minutes. Physical education health log, 1 time a week. Additional or different assignments may be given at any time. I have a few concerns that I would like to address to the board. This plan is reminiscent of the previous plan for remote learning, but much more drastic. While the previous plan had its flaws, at the very least, my child liaised with her teacher and was given individual assignments prepared by her teacher, along with the rest of her classmates. Given the state of the world right now, this was something that we as a family were willing to work with to try and take some of the burden off of the teachers. However, I was extremely disappointed to discover that under this new plan, any kind of personal interaction from her teacher is completely taken out of the equation. As I am sure you are aware, the Mobymax platform is one of complete autonomy. Besides configuration, there is nothing that is being done by Lisbon Central School to further my daughter's education. There is no personal interaction by her teacher and no class assignments to help build a sense of community. In addition to the lack of personalization, the proposed plan accounts for no differentiation in learning styles for individual students, as well as a lack of time variation based upon grade level. For example, a 6th grader will work for the exact same amount of time as a kindergartner. Part of the taxes we pay in Lisbon goes towards public education, and I therefore have a hard time understanding the justification of exiling my child to a platform I could subscribe to. I realize that these are troubling times and that everyone is trying to do their best for the community at large. However, I would submit to you these facts. For the last 10 weeks, the numbers in Lisbon have consistently been over 50%. When we first started the school year with the original remote learning plan, we had lower numbers. Therefore, we are in a worse position now than we were before. My child is not in the minority. There are at least 50 other families that have children that have opted into a full remote learning plan. Since the start of the school year and the decision to go back to full-time, there have been numerous COVID-related outbreaks at Lisbon Central School. So far this week, alone 3 separate COVID cases have occurred at LCS, resulting in the closure of 3 classrooms for remote learning using Google Classroom. That is 3 cases, and the week has not even ended yet. Given the previous facts, it is entirely within Lisbon Central School's ability to conduct classes remotely. Between the dates of January 4th and January 8th, the entire school was remote. At this time, she could have interacted with her classmates and teacher over the Google Classroom. However, since we decided that it was in the best interest for her and our family's safety for her to be full remote, we were barred from attending the Google Classroom, instead instructed to proceed with Mobymax. As stated in the Connecticut Department of Public Health town-level COVID response framework, pre-K to 12 schools in collaboration with local health department and superintendent consider more distance learning above 25. My question is, now that Lisbon is firmly planted at 50.4 and has increased consistently since 10/4/20, how and why is it that we are now asking students to enter the building 5 days a week? I know that these facts have probably been debated ad nauseum by this group and others in the community when making the decision to go back full-time or not, and although I vehemently disagree with the decision, I can respect that it is not mine to make. However, as a parent and a taxpayer, it is my job to question the amount of effort that is being put forth towards those of us in the community who do not agree that the risk of sending our children back into a situation where the numbers are telling us that things are getting worse and not better is not the best choice for our families. I appreciate the time and effort the school board puts into protecting the safety of our children. I look forward to hearing from you on this matter. If you would like to discuss this request further, please contact me at your earliest convenience with his phone number. Thank you for your time, service, consideration. Matthew Kruzik, 23 Barber Farm Road, Lisbon, Connecticut. And there's our attachments. Mrs. Keating did respond, and Mr. Kruzik sent another letter. It says, "Hello, Mrs. Keating. Thank you so much for your prompt response. I welcome your feedback and ask that you please provide me the links for the documents to where the state has adjusted their perspective regarding COVID response framework, as I pull the data provided in my letter directly from the state website on 1/14/21. I'm aware that you have a plan that you have created in conjunction with the Connecticut State Department of Education. That plan was provided to the local Department of Public Health. I took the opportunity to call them directly and have a conversation with them regarding this matter. They advised me that they have no say in whether a school remains open or should close, and that decision rests solely on the superintendent and Connecticut State Department of Education. The Department of Public Health can share their concerns or ideas, but at the end of the day, the decision rests with the superintendent and the Connecticut State Department of Education. I apologize for my mistake in the previous letter stating that LCS was full remote January 4th through January 8th. However, they were continuing the same schedule they had prior to the break, thus the need to change to Mobymax for all distant learning students appeared to be punitive. It is true that all students K through 8 attend school the same amount of time when they are in person. However, the tasks are varied and movement breaks are increased, especially in the younger grades. Finally, a Google Classroom was set up for full remote learners on January 4th. The Google Classroom consists of a general announcement, schedule template, reading log, and PE log. This is a far cry from what we received in the first part of the year and appears to be more of a formality than anything else. In addition, I was very surprised to find this morning that the previous Google Classroom that we had opened in the first part of the year has now been retired, so I can't even get at any past assignments that my child has done. I thank you for your response, and even now, as the numbers in our community reach 71% for 100,000, I still do not believe you will choose to opt for more remote learning or push back the 5 days a week schedule you have laid out, and that is your decision and your burden to bear, not mine. I, however, as a taxpayer and parent, have a right to express my opinion, especially for those who may not be confident enough to do so. As I wrote my email to the Board of Education, and not you directly, I expect that my letter, as well as my response, to be read into the record as public comment at the next Board of Education meeting, as pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order 7B, with a link. Have a good day, and thank you in advance, Matt Kruzek. And we thank him for his communication to us. Okay. Next, we will go to report from the student ambassadors. We'll start with Brock.
In language arts, we are working on our 4th book report, and we are reviewing pronouns and the parts of speech. In science, we are studying electricity, and we are experimenting with batteries and electric currents. In Spanish, we are learning spacing and how to say different public buildings. In math, we are finding x and y through different equations and graphing them. In social studies, we are being taught about what happened after the Revolutionary War and all the constitutions. I'm happy to be back, and I personally like the 5-day week schedules, and I hope that we can stay in school for the rest of the year. Everyone is doing great.
Thank you, Brock. Addison?
In social studies, we are learning about ancient Greece and their daily lives. Men and women weren't equal then, so it is interesting to see how much our culture has changed. In math, Mr. Wheeler is teaching us about prime factorization, distributive property, and PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. When I heard the words distributive property, I thought it was going to be hard, but it isn't as tricky as I thought it would be. In language arts, we finished the book, The Egypt Game. It was about 6 kids who played a game about Egypt until a murder happened. Then one night, April, who is one of the kids, went to the land of Egypt to retrieve her math book when she got grabbed by a man in all black. In science, we are learning about our circulatory system. On Thursday and Friday, we filled out a black and white picture of a small fraction of the circulatory system. In art, we are still working on our ancient Greece portraits. I'm also selling Girl Scout cookies, so email me if you want some. My email is acup@students.lisbonschool.org.
Thank you, Addison. Mr. Upperson, did you have a report from Daisy at all? Okay. All right. Next, we have the minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes of the December 21st, 2020 regular Board of Education meeting.
I'll make that motion from down here.
Okay. Okay. Mr. McCabe, second by Joe Lurick. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. I took the motion, right? We'll do that? Okay. All right. Next, we have our administrators and superintendent's report. We'll start with Mr. Apperson.
All right, first of all, we'll announce our December Students of the Month. So for kindergarten, we have Zoe La Barbera. Grade 1 is Giovanni Muccio. Grade 2, Peyton Michaud. Grade 3, Maya Kalasa. Grade 4, Lily Gardner. Grade 5, Noah Piper. Grade 6, Christopher Derjoux. Grade 7, Mateo Swepson. And Grade 8, Lucas Grant. As you exit, you should see the Student of the Month pictures up there. Many thanks to Christina Georgian for continually trying to reattach it to the wall, first of all. And then Mr. Gracia as well, Joe Gracia, for taking the photos and editing them and getting them ready for going up there. So we're glad to be able to keep that going. So congratulations to those students. We are currently in the process of doing our Ames Web testing, which is our screeners. We did not do a fall screener at the recommendation that we have at least 6 to 8 weeks of Tier 1 intervention. So we're doing our winter benchmarks. We're using a Chromebook cart to rotate through by grade. It's a little more challenging. Usually we can use a lot more resources, so it's stretching out just a little bit longer than normal. Thanks to Julie Lepore for helping organize and making sure that things are going the way that they need to. We will be students that are remote. There is a remote option, so we are going to be able to provide that. It's not perfect, but it will certainly give us some information that we're looking for. So we're going to be rolling that out soon. We're going to try to get the bulk of our students done here, and then towards the end of the window is when we'll produce that for them. The data analysis will be a little bit more in-depth. Obviously, we're looking at more than we typically would look at. We're looking at impact of the pandemic on student learning based on everything that's been going on, so we're very curious to see the results of that. With that said, we are still required to do our spring testing, the state testing, the SBAC. The state of Connecticut has requested a waiver on the federal accountability measures. We're waiting to hear, unless something has come back recently, but they're basically hoping that some of the accountability of growth and things like that, especially with no test last year, trying to waive that. And there's still some options as far as how they're going to take data collection going forward from that. So we'll see how that ends up. There is a remote option for that as well. And what they're hoping is to get as many students tested in person rather than remotely. But for those that we can't do, then we'll have to do the remote option. Again, they also advise pushing that remote option later in the window. For the hope is hopefully to have more kids in person. So the goal is to push that back a little further. We're going to need to get creative as far as scheduling. It's always a challenge to schedule all the kids to get tested for all the things that we need to do. It is computer-based, but it is a lengthy window, and we'll have to maybe stretch out a little longer than we normally do. Sometimes we try to condense it so we're not spending so much time in the school, but we're going to have to do what we have to do. So that's where we're at this point.
Scott?
I have one quick question on the SBACs. Are they going to report them in person or remote?
So the reporting, I think, is what we're waiting to hear back as far as what gets reported as well. I think as the school will get some results, but what might be reported to the public might not be available, because that's one of the things that they're trying to do, because again, based on the different situations in the school. But certainly we'll know the difference between that as well.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Ackerson? Okay, before we move on, apparently in the confusion as to who made the motion, we never actually voted on it, perhaps, on the minutes. So all those in favor of accepting the minutes from the December 21st, 2020 meeting, say aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, on to Mr. Trepanier.
Okay, so I have the special ed numbers. We've had an increase of 1 student for special ed. We've had a decrease in our outplacement by 1. That student moving back to Lisbon Central School. We had another student move out of the district, and then we've had a new referral, and then we had someone new move into the town. So again, that's 99 students in special ed in Lisbon. Also, another update I have is we're looking at our upper and lower flexible resource room, and what a fantastic job they've done this year working with the students that they have. The numbers have both been averaging about 4 students with assisting, taking them into that room to work with them, and then trying to kind of use a push-in model to get them back into the classrooms with their regular classrooms. And the new intern that's working in there this coming half of the school year, which is Jacob Nolan. And last, I'd like to just let the board know that I will be working with Michael Rizzo, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Special Services in Westport. He is going to be mentoring me through Concase because I am now the new special ed director here, and that's a program that's offered through Concase. End of report.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Next, we'll move to the business office with Mrs. Diana Cormier.
An update on the Medicaid report. I received 1 check from Medicaid for a little over $1,000. So the balance that we started this year out with, including any checks received this year, is a little over $20,000. We spent almost $3,400, leaving some little bit encumbered of about $5,000. But right now, the balance sits in that account of $11,500 to use. And again, that money can roll over. It does not expire on June 30th. Any questions? The cafeteria report is not a surprise. I know we've had a couple of conversations. I'm going to start at the bottom of the report. Those are the Board of Ed expenses. Those are the only ones that I put a budget in for this year, since we are so not what we're used to. I didn't put any budget numbers in on the cafeteria end. So we're about halfway through the year. We're through December 30th, and the board has spent about half of their allotted budget towards the cafeteria. As far as the cafeteria themselves, their expenditures, you can see, are about $74,000 between payroll and substitutes and the food and the other things that they had purchased. We have received money, I think it's about $1,500 to put towards their COVID supplies that they had to buy out of the ordinary. That's not reflected in here yet because we received that money in January. We received about $49,000 in monthly reimbursements from the state. But as you can see, we're still operating at this point at a loss of almost $19,000.
Okay. Any questions?
So with the kids coming back, that 19,000 is apt to get less because more kids will be eating?
That's what the hope is, yes.
And then how's it all working out with the government money for school lunches?
Well, that's the thing. So Michael, Michael submits all of his numbers, his counts monthly to the state for his lunch counts and also his breakfast counts. We certify them, we send them into the state. It takes about 4, 5, 6 weeks for the money to actually come in. And then we use that money to offset the expenses.
And will that help offset that 19,000?
We're hoping to. We are hoping to.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Next, we move to Mr. McGlue with Buildings and Grounds.
So over the holiday break, we had TPC Electronics here. They did the fire alarm inspection on the fire alarm system. They tested the horns, strobes, pull stations, and at the end of the report, everything was good. We do have one little discrepancy on the magnetic door holder in the hallway. It's got a crack in it. They're going to work up a price to repair it. Also over the break, we had AL fire protection here. They were here for the sprinkler system, did the quarterly inspection, everything was fine. While they were also here, they were in the kitchen and they updated some of the sprinkler heads that needed to be updated, and knock on wood, everything's going smooth. Thank you.
Any questions?
I told him that I would give him a ring or an email, probably beginning of March at the latest, because I kind of would like to keep the momentum going. But I was kind of excited about that, and I thought you might be too. In terms of brochure, Brian Apperson and I just wanted to see a template that we have pretty much agreed to, unless you feel differently. And it is a template to some degree, because we put our own students perhaps on the front cover and so forth. But we did pick the areas of academic, extracurricular, technology, and community for topics to highlight. We thought, for example, under the academics, I know one board member said, geez, can you talk about how we send to various high schools? Yes, we can put that in there. Technology, I think it's okay to say at this point with the Board of Ed Finance Committee that that's one of our areas of focus, so we thought we'd play that up. Community, we have a wonderful community with a hub, PTO, so that's why we picked what we did. But if you feel differently, you can email either Brian, me, or both. We still have time. But we just wanted to give you a flavor of what it's going to kind of look like. Brian, would you agree with that? Okay. I did want to, yes. In terms of the percentage of students who are attending in person, because I get asked that a lot, we are at 87%. And from our perspective and the feedback that we're getting from parents of students who are attending in person, is that things are going well. So I just wanted to put that on the table too. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, are there any
Thank you.
questions for Sally?
Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to talk about this at all? Did we cover this?
Yes, I could do it.
I'm sorry, I was busy doing something else.
Oh,
We're
no.
good.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right. No
All
problem.
right. Next, we have approval of the monthly expenditures. We need a motion to approve monthly expenditures for December 2020, fiscal year 2020-2021 in the amount of $1,091,460.89. Okay. Oh, all right. All right. Hold on one second. All right, Joe Lorick first.
Okay.
Lauren second. Is that okay? Are there any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Next, we need a motion to approve the financial statement for December 2020, fiscal year 2020-2021, as presented by the administration. Okay, Joan, make the first motion. Second, Lauren. Is there any questions? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay. All right. Next is discussion for the acceptance and approval of employees' letter of retirement and possible action. I will read that. Dear Sally, it is with mixed emotions that I submit this letter of resignation. I feel it is time to pass the torch to the next generation of teachers, and therefore, I am resigning my position as the 6th and 7th grade language arts teacher. Although it has been an honor to serve this community, I am eager to spend more time with my family, especially my new grandbaby. My last day of teaching will be June 11th, 2021. When I arrived at Lisbon Central School in 1979 to teach elementary education as a very naive young teacher, I had no idea that the next 40 or so years would go so quickly. I have witnessed Lisbon Central School's Board of Education members, administrators, and teaching staff working together to provide the best possible education for the children of Lisbon. Lisbon Central School has grown into a fine teaching institution. This administration, along with my colleagues, have been very supportive during my tenure. I am truly proud to be a member of this institution and will miss being part of the LCS family. I have enjoyed every moment of my teaching experience, challenges and all. I am honored to have had the chance to touch the lives of so many children. It has been as much a pleasure to learn from them as it has been to teach them. I am proud to say that many of my former students have gone on to attend college and become teachers, attorneys, members of the medical field, and other professionals. It warms my heart to think I may have played a small role in their success. Thank you so very much for the opportunity. Lisbon Central School will always have a place in my heart, and I wish you all the best. Sincerely, L. Baldwin. And I know Rita was my teacher, and I'm guessing she was the teacher of a couple other people at this table. All right, I need a motion to accept and approve Mrs. Baldwin's letter of retirement with regret and to wish her much success in the future. Melissa Avery, second. Joe Lorick. All those in favor? Opposed? All right, she will be missed. All right, next on the agenda, we're going to talk about increased public access to the Board of Education meetings. That'll be Mrs. Keating or Mr. Apperson, whoever wants to take that.
Well, I know the Board of Ed had suggested that we discuss this topic as to how to provide access virtually for the public who can't attend in person for Board of Ed meetings. So I put it on the agenda for discussion. As you know, we're doing the audio tonight. In terms of the Zoom, the reason we didn't do Zoom is we needed a special cable. Somehow the cameras weren't compatible with the system, but this cable would do it. So I wanted to put that on the table for future, what would you like to do? Would you like to keep what we're doing, not keep what we're doing, go to Zoom, not go to Zoom? I just put it on because it was, Scott, it was actually your yes.
Can you, Scott, I'm sorry, can you just get a mic so that the people at home can hear you, ironically, since that's what we're talking about?
Given we're going to put technology on our brochure, I think it'd be great to have every board meeting live streamed.
Okay, do we have an opinion on to keep doing the audio like we're doing this evening? Or do that for a while and see, or does someone want to?
I think the audio is a good idea. I'm a little concerned about
A Zoom platform with the notion that it could be interactive. I think that would be really hard to manage. Having people trying to contribute to the board conversation in their little square. Somebody would have to really manage that and stay on top of it, and that could just get difficult and not ideal. But live streaming could be a good way to make sure that people could at least, view the meetings.
Anyone else? Scott? No. Dave, did you have? Okay. All right, so I guess we'll continue doing this, and if someone, see how this goes, and if someone has a suggestion later on, we can certainly revisit it. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. All right, next we have some policies. The first one is certified and non-certified Title IX. This is a new policy, not an amended policy. There was just an error in the...
My apology to the board.
all right.
It's new, and I didn't put it as such.
So I'm going to actually have Joan Marshall discuss this policy, and then we'll go on with the motions.
So this policy is really kind of a formality in terms of providing direction for people who want to make some kind of complaint. And that's really all it entails, is who is the designated person and how complaints would be handled. It's mostly statute-driven, but asks us to designate a person, which we did. So.
Are there any questions about this policy? Okay. All right, so we need a motion to waive the first reading of policy 40001.1-5145.44, Title IX. Joe and Joan second. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, now we need a motion to adopt policy 4000.1/5145.44, Title IX. Joan, second. Following year. We moved this back simply because our new contract with Griswold has February 1st as their notification date, so we wanted to be sure that we gave parents time to do that, and we're still able to budget correctly and give the right numbers. Are there any questions about this policy? Okay. So I need a motion to amend policy 5117.1, designated high school. Oh, yes? Waive the first read. I need to waive the first read. Yeah. Need a policy to waive the first reading of policy 5. No, because this is not a new policy. This is an amended policy. I don't think I need to waive a first read on amend, do I?
Oh, we've done it, but
Okay. All right, so we'll make a motion. It's been a long day, I'm sorry. Whew. Make a motion to waive the first reading on policy 5117.1, designated high school. Joe, second. Joan? All those in favor of the waive? Opposed? Okay. Now I need a motion to amend policy 5117.1, designated high school. Judy, second. Joe. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. All right. Next, we're going to talk about the 2020-2021 Board of Education budget.
So I've updated the spreadsheet from when we discussed it last month. I do have some projections, again, not in all of the separate line items, because some of them I just left blank. I did some projections on, again, the certified salaries. That's money that I need to move from the preschool tuition into the salary line item. There's some non-certified salaries that needed some tweaking. Some student activities that I know are going to happen. Some substitute custodian figures. The Anthem Blue Cross, FICA that went along with the salaries. Some requests for contractual 403, tuition reimbursements. I did a projection of the accounting fees, the accounting fee line item and the legal fees. Transportation. Special ed, as Scott had said, we had brought back a student, so we had some significant savings since last month, since that just happened. Adult education, I believe, I'm not sure, we didn't have the full reimbursement yet from the state, so I just zeroed out that line item. Custodial contracted services, some more projections, as is the electricity, which leaves, again, as of now, with the way the out-of-district tuitions are, and the estimated excess cost reimbursement of approximately $67,000, and putting the coronavirus grant money back into this budget was $86,000. Right now, I see us having money to work with, because again, not everything is accounted for, not everything is projected. There's about $427,000 that we have to work with between now and the end of the school year. If all goes well.
All right. We did discuss this at the Finance Subcommittee today a little bit, too. So, does anyone have any questions for Diana? Any suggestions, comments, anything? Okay. Thank you. All right, next, Mrs. Keating is going to talk about the school medical advisor position.
Yes, thank you. As you know, or many of you know, Dr. Galen did retire, who was our SMA, school medical advisor. As you note in your packet, Shipman and Goodwin gave us advice as to how we could hire an APRN. Her name is Rachel Jadzak. No, Rachel, she would like to have her, so Shipman and Goodwin said as long as we don't call her a school medical advisor, but call her something to the effect of contracted nurse, contracted staff member, whatever, we could hire her and we would be legal. And the good news, too, is that she can start tomorrow if we go with her. Again, if Teresa were here tonight, she couldn't be here tonight for good reason. She really would like this to go through. So that's why I brought it to the table. I don't know whether we need a motion to do it or not, but I wanted to put it on the table so you knew what was going on.
Scott?
Maybe I just misunderstood. I thought you said we could hire her, but she's free.
Correct, but I have to call her a contracted, I can't go with the supervisor title in here. We were given in the packet from Shipman and Goodwin 2 titles. I can't call her a supervisor for a lot of reasons. So the other one was contracted, nurse, contracted staff member, contracted. So I'd have to actually do some kind of agreement where it says she's doing it for free.
Could it just be volunteer? Why do we have to make her an employee?
I'm not making her
It's like a contracted
I'm not
service.
making her an
Gotcha,
employee.
okay. I get the employee
I
and
stayed
the
away
free
from
part.
that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what, Scott? I cut you off. I didn't mean to.
I'm just confused about the employee and the free. If she wants to volunteer
Yeah,
or...
it's not an employee.
Okay,
We have to stay away from that term.
all right, so we hire her for free.
Well, we're going to call it a contracted service for free.
Okay.
I know, I'm sorry, but this is the only way to make it work, and Shipman and Goodwin did bless it. And you know me with the lawyers, I follow exactly what they tell me. Again, I don't know if I really need a motion. If you want to make a motion, it'd be great, but if you don't, you just say it's my responsibility. I'm fine with that, too. I didn't know how you wanted me to proceed, that's all.
I'm thinking that we should make a motion.
Okay?
Okay,
Yep.
so I need someone to make a motion to hire Rachel Zajac as a contracted APRN for the school
I
district.
think that's good.
I'll make that motion.
Judy, second,
Oh, yeah.
Melissa. Avery?
You know her.
Right. Any other conversation on this? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay,
Thank you, and the only other thing I was wondering if we wanted to look at, I'm not sure we have to do anything with it, is a policy around this.
yeah, we have,
This-
we'll look into the
Okay,
medical
all right,
policy.
thanks a lot.
Because we do talk about it, I know, in the
Yeah.
allergy policies.
I think so.
Specifically.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yep,
All right.
we'll do that for next month.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we're going to discuss possible partnership with Natchog.
Well, I will start the conversation, but I'm going to then give it to Scott. I think it was a year ago, I believe anyway, I brought to the board that Natchog was somewhat interested in possibly renting rooms from us. And with everything going on, we put it on the back burner, and then with the pandemic, of course, should I keep talking, or? Yeah, it's okay, okay. And then with the pandemic, it really was put on the back burner. But there's a resurgence, so to speak, because Scott Trepanier used to be very heavily involved, correct? So I'm going to let you take it from here.
So, I was the principal of the Green Valley School, which was a contracted school previously in Norwich for Hartford Healthcare. When they moved out of Norwich, we looked at options where we could move the school. One particular place that we found was renting space in the Franklin Elementary School in Franklin, where they gave us a designated space. In that space, we had created 4 self-contained classrooms, and that part of the building was isolated from the rest of the school. The only shared spaces we used was the library and the gymnasium, and we had 24 students in the school, and we rented that place. So one of the things that Sally and I talked about, Ms. Keating and I talked about, was that potentially there could be a time where NACHOG would be looking to expand the amount of possibility they'd be interested in renting some self-contained space here in our building. And I have talked to the director of the NACHOG school programs, and she said that would be something they potentially could consider.
Do we have a time frame on when this could occur?
No time frame. And it was just a discussion as a vision with nothing more than that at this point.
Okay. I think okay.
So this would be at least a year out, if not 2 years. Again, if you
Okay.
even want it.
Right, we're looking at probably 1 to 2 years out.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Scott?
Was everybody happy at Franklin with it?
Extremely happy.
There you go. All right.
Relationship worked really, really well. Supported a lot of their programs. Because we shared speech, we shared OT, we were a big supporter of their meal program. So thinking about our school lunch program, those 24 students that came into their building in Franklin with a school of only 165 students total, pre-K through 8, when you add 24 students that are all 100% free reduced lunch, it really, really had a strong impact on their school lunch program. It really helped.
And Scott, when I talked to the superintendent over there, and to you, tell me if I'm right on this, if perchance they had,
When you have the conversation, if you could get some idea of like space, what are they thinking maybe? And then we could, look at that as time goes on as well. Okay?
Good, absolutely.
Okay. Next, I need a motion to move agenda item number 10G, salary agreements, to executive session immediately following agenda item number 14. Judy, second by Joan. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Are there any committee reports? I guess the Finance Committee, give a little oral report. We're going to meet again next week. We've been through all the sections of the budget book. We finished that today. So next week, we're going to meet with administration again, just to go over some fine details and hopefully be wrapping that up at that point. All right. Are there additions to the agenda?
I'd like to make an addition that we discuss the Mobymax remote learning issue.
Okay.
She didn't hear that.
I'm sorry, that we added an item to the agenda to discuss the Mobymax remote learning issue.
Okay. I have a motion to add remote learning, full remote learning and Mobymax to the agenda. Do I have a second? Joe, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay.
well, actually, I'm going to have Mr. Apperson address this issue because he's spearheading, although I agreed with everything and approved everything as superintendent, so I want to make that clear. But Brian and Megan are spearheading the distance learning. What would you, I was just going to say, do you have a?
So
Go
I'm
ahead.
wondering if we have an opportunity to ask some questions.
Yes,
Because I think we kind of got a report last time about how the whole thing was working.
good, yep.
So one of my questions is, since Mobymax is not a new thing to our district, how are the in-person students using it? And presumably, hopefully, soon enough, at some point, we'll all come back together. How will the in-person students and the remote learning students be able to converse about Mobymax and how it works and what their experiences were?
So in typical years, we use Mobymax for intervention. Sorry. So right now, it's difficult for us just due to the fact that most of our devices are loaned out to students. So when we have students that come in that are new, there is a bit of a transition time. What we don't want to do is we don't want to have a lot of transitions back and forth. Once they make that transition, it could take, depending on what they're doing, if there's a certain book that's being read, things like that, we would have to reintegrate that way. But even if they were doing it the old way, there might be some timing that was a little bit off, things like that. So really the key, though, is to look through and see where they're at, have an idea of what skills that they're working on, what they're mastering. It gives them grade level equivalence. So really the transition has to do with just getting them up to date on the content itself. The skills, if they have to go back and deal with skills that maybe they might have missed, that might leave them a little further back, but they need to get that anyway. And these are things that when done in person, teachers can, through the conversations with the students, through all the various assessments that they do, both formal and informal, they can tell. But when they're fully remote, it becomes much more difficult to be able to tell because the feedback can't be as quick. The informal assessments that happen ongoing are hard to tell. It's only what's been delivered back to the teacher in the old process where they would receive, a worksheet that was completed or a writing assignment, and that's what they had. But the discourse wasn't there, which there isn't with Mobymax either, but at least we're attaching the strands that need to be looked at. So the long story short is that there is going to be a bit of a transition to come back in to get them up to date with the content, but what we found more important is making sure that we're dealing with those standards that need to be addressed.
Okay. And then my other question, one of the things that Deb had mentioned was the kind of issues with Mobymax and how it was working, and can parents interact directly with Mobymax? And one of the other letters, one of the parents had mentioned this was a subscription that a parent could purchase.
Yep.
So can a parent go directly to Mobymax, or does it have to go through the school?
They can go through Mobymax if they want. Like the video that Megan is creating is actually how to read a parent report, where we just sent progress reports home, and how they can manage the parent portal. The parent portal, they can go in and access all the different things, find out what strands are working, what questions they got right, what they didn't. They can really get a complete history, just like the administrator or the teachers can see. So that's what that video is about. There was a video previously that talking about just how to log on and things like that. But really the parent component, there's a lot that a parent can see in there that you really couldn't see previously. And now, by being able to go in there, you can gather that information. There's a lot of information that needs to be, the parent needs to understand how and what to look for. So that's really the next step for us, because we did send home progress reports that, again, without any description, we need to be able to explain. And there's a lot more information than that. We tried to make it in as easily digestible for the 2 weeks that we have as we could.
Thanks.
And Brian, Mr. Appleson, this is at the student's level.
Yep, so
I think
the other,
that's important in that intervention can mean two things. It
Yep.
can be for those students that perhaps need a little more help, but also for acceleration too.
yeah, so.
Because I think that's a misconception.
Yeah, and I think that there's been some, I think with the placement test, some kids have struggled with that, where maybe they didn't do their best work, and maybe they were placed at a level that wasn't really appropriate for them. But even if they take that placement test and do however they do, as they go through the standards anyway, it's going to adjust. But it might take a little bit. It's been 2 weeks so far. I do anticipate that things will shift. I know we've seen some students who have made several grades worth of growth in 2 weeks, which is quite unheard of, but we have seen it. It'll take some time to adjust, because it is always adjusting. The more standards that you master, the higher it bumps you up. If you, like Mrs. Keating said, if you're a student who's doing really well, you're going to go push beyond the grade level. If you need more that you need to go back and get, then it'll do that as well. But it does take a little bit of time, but it is adjusting.
Okay.
Yep.
Lauren?
Here, you want to pass this one down to Lauren?
For the students that are doing remote sent home at the beginning of a week or 2 weeks or something, just to maybe find a way to keep the kids, they at least have the opportunity to be on the same wave as what's going on in the classrooms, if the parents choose to work with them and keep them at
Right.
that level.
And that's one of the things that we're looking at is opportunities and where we can integrate some of those things. Because again, one of the things is that we could add different assignments as needed. It's been 2 weeks so far, so starting out with that, we wanted to make sure that there's a lot of technical things of just getting to do a program that requires so much. We felt confident that the kids knew what they were doing, but we wanted to give some time for that.
Okay.
But we are actually having conversations to try to come up with things that would, particularly in the writing department, of where we can address things that are more in line with what's going on in school. But we want to kind of get the ball rolling first, so
Okay.
we are looking for those opportunities.
Okay.
And actually, the other thing I want to mention is there are some enrichment activities that are on our website too that kids can access, and that's been up there for a while. So that was actually prior to the new year, but so we do have some options there as well for extra stuff. But again, that's not going to completely align with what the teachers are doing, but it's more enrichment opportunities.
Like I said, I know it's not going to completely align, but something like spelling words, well, that could get sent home at the beginning of the week, and, you know, maybe that will just make some of the parents that are doing the remote learning, help them feel a little less kind of in the dark with some of the stuff that's going on in the classroom.
Okay.
Anyone else? Jenny, did you want to say something?
No, I was getting ready to pass the microphone.
Okay. All right. Did you want to say anything else? Anyone? Okay. Are there any other additions to the agenda? No? Okay. Next agenda planning, we will put on the policies regarding the medical director slash, yeah. Yeah. All right, anything else for next, yes, Dave?
Perhaps we could look at the possibility of spring sports because they're an outdoor event, and with CIAC allowing the winter sports season for lower risk sports such as basketball. I know we didn't do the fall sports, but some schools did have cross-country. I know some of the local middle schools did do a little bit of cross-country, and I know winter was pretty much out because of the indoor high-risk factor, but if the push seems to be for the outdoor season to happen with the comparable middle schools around us, I'd like us to be at least in that framework if that's going to happen, and that might require looking at it sooner rather than later.
Okay. Anything else? Do we want to put the budget on for next? Think we'll be ready? All right. Budget and then end of year spending?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good idea.
Can we get an update on the remote learning as well?
Yep. Remote learning update. All right. Okay, is there any more public comment this evening? Damien, let's just get you a microphone, okay?
Damien Rickard. Just a couple comments. So first, Brian, it's been 3 weeks for remote. Today marks 3 weeks since the Mobymax. Thank you to Joan and the others that spoke up and added it to the agenda for tonight. So I guess my biggest comment has to do with is the integration piece again. How's an 8th grader going to go to, NFA after being remote for half the school year? Back, but unless the 13% of the students that are remote learning come back, I mean, there really aren't students coming back other than the Wednesdays. And is that Wednesday coming back is that going to make that $19,000 difference in the cafeteria? And it's figured, as a taxpayer, as board members that are taxpayers, I think looking at that, what can be done to stop the bleeding of that $19,000? That's, I'm calling it right now. If nothing's done, that's only going to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. I need a motion to enter into executive session and to invite Mrs. Sally Keating, Mrs. Diana Cormier, and separately each employee whose salary is being discussed. Joe, second? Joan, all those in favor? Opposed? All right. Thank you.
Just debating whether to send Bronco a long one or short, a big